So I'd like to call the JPS March 16th meeting to order. Pursuant to the Illinois Attorney General's guidance to public bodies and the Open Meetings Act during the COVID pandemic, county board members may participate without being physically present in compliance with the established provisions. Let's start with the roll call, please.
Chair Renahan,
Here.
Member Chaplin,
Here.
Member Covert,
Here.
Member Desart,
Here.
Member Eckhoff, Member Garcia,
Here.
Member Krajewski,
Here.
Member Ozog,
Here.
Member Krajewski,
Here.
Member Schwarzy,
Here.
Member Selmon,
Here.
Member Zay.
Here.
Thank you. And I am advised that we can take a motion to permit those attending remotely to participate. Do we have a motion?
So move. Chaplin.
We have a second on that? And I'm advised this should be a roll call vote. So roll call, please, on that.
Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member Eckhoff, Member Garcia,
Aye.
Member Krajewski,
Aye.
Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Petrowski, Member Schwarzy,
Aye.
Member Selmon,
Aye.
Member Zay,
Aye.
Chair Renahan.
Aye. Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you. So just starting us off today, I'd like to once again thanks to everyone who attended and presented at our special call meeting on the Safety Act legislation and financial impact 2 weeks ago. Today we're going to see the first item related to the bill, but it is a no vote today. It is regarding the purchase of body cams as submitted by the sheriff. With this, we will begin discussion on how to move forward and to meet state guidelines. We know the law has a January 1st deadline for counties over 500,000, and I look forward to some good discussion on this and hearing details from the sheriff. Beyond this item, I've asked Jason Blumenthal to compile information on implementation from other governmental entities on how they have done reviewing and headcount as relates to body cam policies. Given what we hear in that report, it may be useful to have a study done on actual new hiring and where we can house additional staff. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve minutes of our regular JPS committee meeting of March 2nd.
So move. Chaplin.
Second, Zay.
Any additions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, those pass. I'll also entertain a motion to approve the minutes of JPS special call March 2nd.
So move. Chaplin.
Second, Zay.
Any additions, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, those are approved. I'll take a motion to approve budget transfer from 54100 IT equipment to 53807 software maintenance agreements in the amount of $24,000 to support the probation case management system.
So move. Chaplin.
Second, Garcia. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those pass. I'll take a motion on change order amendment to resolution JPSP 302-19 to Cello Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless for cell phone usage for the Circuit Court Clerk and Chief Judge's Office for an increase of $5,000.
So move. Chaplin.
Second, Zay.
Questions on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Moving on to procurement, I'll take a motion to approve JPSP 59-21, approval of contract purchase to C5 Solutions, Inc. for a 3-year annual maintenance support contract, April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2024, not to exceed $260,668 for probation and court services.
So move. Chaplin.
Second, Garcia. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Chair Renahan,
Yes, member Desart.
I did have a question about A and B. I assume this is an annual renewal. I'm just wondering, what does C5 software do exactly? And then B is the purchase of the case management software. So A is the purchase for the maintenance for the software. I'd like A and B explained a little bit further, please.
Okay, and I understand we have Bob McKellen on the phone from probation.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Both A and B are contracts with our case management provider, C5. We've been working with C5 for the past 8 years. They do provide services for our case management system and have for the past 8 years. The first 8A is a 3-year maintenance agreement. The previous maintenance agreement just ended, so this is a 3-year additional contract. 8B, the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts requires all probation departments in Illinois to provide certain probation data to the University of Cincinnati. This contract will enable us to build an interface with the University of Cincinnati system, so there won't be manual entry. It'll automatically, electronically be forwarded to University of Cincinnati.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Member Krajewski.
Is there anybody else that provides this type of service or software?
We went through an RFP 8 years ago. C5 was selected. We had probably around 8 vendors that submitted an RFP. As I said, they were the most affordable and provide the most services, and they were selected 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, usually we want to go at least like 3 years or something to check on. 8 years seems like an awful long time to not go out. It says sole source, but to not go out for a bid, at least to see what, especially in the technology area where things change constantly. But I would suggest, I'd like to see this go out to bid. It's been 8 years, but thank you.
Any other questions or comments on item A? Member Jay.
Thank you. Bob, we had talked about the new criminal justice law. Has these figures been put into these contracts for possible increases in cases?
They have not. These are just, it's just a maintenance contract and then our contract with UC. We have not really looked into how the reform bill will impact our systems.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Do we need a roll call vote?
No.
No.
No, we don't need a roll call vote. We have a quorum in person. That item is approved. Moving on, I'll ask for a motion on 2021-26, also for probation and court services, the C5 Solutions customization for their case management system, April 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2021, not to exceed $20,150.
So moved, Desart.
Second Chaplin.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this item? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. I'll take a motion on grant proposal notification GPN 24-21 DCFS Children's Advocacy Center grant, $65,464 for the Children's Center from the state's attorney.
So moved Chaplin.
Second, Garcia. Questions, comments on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Notification is received and placed on file. Informational items. Do I have a motion to receive and place on file change order recommendation for approval of contract purchase order to Addison ACDP to provide police dispatching April 1st, 2021 to November 2nd, 2023 for probation and court services, not to exceed $0.
Second Chaplin.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. That passes. So we have another informational item. Do I have a motion to receive and place on file Public Defender's February 2021 monthly statistical report?
So moved Chaplin.
All right, thank you. Do you have a question on this item?
I didn't have a question. I just want to make a statement. If you take a look at that report, you can see how the number of active cases have gone through the roof, even though the number of cases that are created every month stays about the same. And that's because what Jeff and Bob Berlin were talking about, and it's harder to get these cases to come to resolution because it's harder to try the cases and everything like that. So the public defender's office is already being stressed by the effects of COVID-19, and I'm sure it's going to take a couple of years to build that back down to a lower level where they were before COVID-19.
All right, thank you, Member Eckhoff. Do we have any other comments on this item? All right, all in favor of receiving, placing that on file?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that shall be done. Then our final comment under informational is actually a presentation from the Sheriff's Office regarding the body cams, regarding the Taser 7 devices. We have Deputy Sheriff or Sheriff, I'm not sure which one of you would like to present. Thank you.
We're here today to discuss and answer any questions that you have about our body cam purchasing, our purchase order, as it pertains to House Bill 3653. So instead of me just giving a bunch of dialogue, of encyclopedia of information, I figure let's cut to the chase and we'll go to any questions. Krajewski.
This purchase is, if House Bill 3653 would not have been signed, would we still be doing this?
No, it's a mandate of this.
And it looks like there's 72, the number, most of the quotes. Is that 72 figure is that how many licenses we have?
So what it is what we were looking at is the total body cam purchase of 180 body cameras. We have about 115 people assigned to law enforcement who would have to have those body cameras. And we have people in corrections out on the streets, swap, transport, things of that nature. And then some extras for any special things that we would need to do, like when we do Medina, the PGA event, we have massive people. The numbers break out a bit differently. We currently are under contract with Axon Taser, Taser 7 devices. So we would be looking to marry up the body cameras with those Taser 7s, and then that 72 number is to get the rest of our people with a Taser 7 and a body camera. So that's why those numbers kind of bounce around a little bit.
Now, this is a 5-year contract. Is this something that we might consider leasing because technology changes all the time with this? Or is this something that we shouldn't be looking at as far as a lease or a purchase?
Very good question. Actually, everything that Axon does now, starting with Taser 7, is a 5-year lease. Okay. So basically what it is that way, anything breaks, anything's damaged, anything's dropped, replace it. They determine that their products have about a 5-year life. So they don't even offer most of their stuff for purchase anymore because they want to make sure that it's still active and valid.
And I just want to say at the end, thank you. We got $11,000, $44 discount. So thank you guys for, doing that for the county.
And to that point, we are currently working on the state has a reimbursement grant, but it's a strict reimbursement grant with a hard deadline of, I believe, the end of May. We have to apply for that for the body cameras. So looking at this for the body cam portion alone, we'd be looking at trying to recoup $126,000 of this initial outlay, but it is a reimbursement. It has to be bought and we have to have it implemented actually much earlier by June to get that reimbursement done.
All right, thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Sheriff,
I'm sorry?
How are you paying for this?
The taxpayers are paying for it. We don't
Is
have
it
an
coming out of
internal
your
budget.
budget?
We do not have any internal budget mechanism that would possibly pay for an endeavor of this magnitude. That's why we did come here months ago before this was passed to try to warn you about the repercussions, but it was tabled indefinitely and now we're here. So, I mean.
Well, I understand what you're going through, but I think this is a bigger discussion of where this money is going to come out of. And what does this trigger then? Just because you're getting this, what does it trigger also in your office? Additional personnel you need to read this, additional IT purchases that you need. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think everybody has to have their eyes wide open when they look at this and say, oh, it's just this amount for this year. No, this starts now escalating this. And if this is the take out of reserves, then we need to have a huge discussion about it.
Let me have Deputy Chief Billy explain your personnel question. The personnel aspect, part of that was on here initially was looking to increase our headcount by 3 staff. One would be a sergeant who would actually be administering this program. It's a very, very comprehensive program, not only to get it up and running, and we're working on the policy on now, but the administration of this program, there's a massive report that has to go to the state every year. We have to review the body camera footage. We have to make sure that our officers are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, not doing the things they're not supposed to be doing in that review. We also need those 2 division assistants to help prepare that. It's expecting a massive increase in FOIAs for body cam footage and associated reports that go with that. So it's definitely at least a 3 head count, and that's being conservative and trying to put some of the duties and responsibilities on existing staff. But honestly, we really don't know what the overall impact is going to be till we get at least a couple years of experience and data under us. That may go up, the need for more personnel.
What about IT? How is your IT setup? I mean, obviously,
one of the benefits of Axon Taser is the use of evidence.com, which is their proprietary evidence storage. We're currently on evidence.com because we have the Taser 7 devices, and we have quite a few Taser X26s from pre-existing. So we're already there. It's cloud-based, it's their storage, it's very secure. It would be rather seamless. That's included in the quote.
It's good. Okay, thank you.
All right. I see Member Ozog is next in line.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sheriff Mendrick, I have a couple of questions. Can you clarify for me, we currently have cameras on squad cars. About how many squad cars are equipped with cameras?
70, they're dash cameras. WatchGuard is the company that we work with for those.
Okay, are those in sync with the tasers? Is that a different system altogether?
That's a different platform altogether.
Okay.
That's why we had to go with Axon again, or else we would have been writing 3 platforms, which would have been untenable.
Okay, so those are not combined with the taser use. My other question is, when did we install the dash cams? Approximately.
Dash cams have been going on forever. Back when I started here, we actually had VHS dash cams. That kind of goes how far back they go. So it's been at least 20 plus years. One of the reasons also that we were looking at the Taser Axon program or Axon Taser program is that if the deputies are out of their car, they're in a house, they're in a domestic situation, the dash cam doesn't catch any of that. If it's an emergency situation and they jump out of their car and they run, they just came from their dinner break and their body camera was off, they forget to turn that body camera on because it's an emergency situation. As soon as any deputy that's in there that has a Taser 7 activates their Taser, just turns it on, that would kick on any of the body cameras that were off. That would not happen with the WatchGuard system.
I see. And one other question. So you've been dealing with dash cam for many years. Is there, were there increases in personnel, increases in storage, something similar to what we're looking at for the body cams?
The storage is a massive increase. It was a massive update. And in fact, part of the quote with WatchGuard that I got from them said that the servers that we currently have with WatchGuard cannot take what we would do if we had to add their platform. So we would be increasing our server storage. We would probably have to increase our IT staff by at least 1 or 2 just to get that running. And I'm sure that would have a trickle down effect to Mr. Berlin's office and Mr. York's office.
So going forward, the body cam expenses, storage, et cetera, will be completely separate from the squad car. There's no integration between the 2 of them.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Chair Renahan. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat again today. Looking through the, I guess this is the quote. You have I see some virtual reality training and things like that. That's not necessarily in the legislation. So what are all the extras in here that that are in here that really we may not need for the legislation? And if we remove some of that, would that bring the cost down?
Well, actually, that is mandated. I'll let you go through that. Let me first tell you what it is so you know what this object is. As part of de-escalation training, which is part of that House bill mandate. This is a VR headset that you can actually pick your mental health affliction, whether it's autism, schizophrenia, even hard of hearing, pretty much anything that could, you could have as a mental health challenge. When you put the helmet on, you feel it. I have an autistic son, so it was really something when I tried it and everything was too bright, too loud. I wandered into a store, accidentally took a toy and then got arrested by the police. It was really unpleasant experiencing that. Then it flips instantly and you're the cop and there's that autistic kid and you handle the call. And by feeling what that person felt and going through those experiences, and then having to deal with that person as a law enforcement issue, that de-escalation training isn't like being in a classroom. That sticks in your memory. I experienced that. That's something you feel, you understand. It changes the way that you address everybody. It's a great de-escalation tactic. That's what it does, but I'll let Dan explain how it does the House bill.
So the House bill actually has a requirement of 12 hours of scenario-based training. They have not laid out specifically how that scenario-based training is. Traditionally, scenario-based training has been the sheriff and I would be interacting hand-to-hand kind of thing. One of the unfortunate byproducts of that type of training is workers' comp injuries, people get hurt, things of that nature. With the ability to tie in this VR, we think that it would actually meet that mandate, if not exceed that mandate. We can tie that into CIT training. We can tie that into the diversity training program. We don't have to have any actors brought in and pay method actors. I did look through the quote at the request of Chairwoman Renahan. I did look at the quote. The only thing that's broke out in that quote yearly is like $6,450 for the VR training. Now, there might be some other costs that are associated in this overall package. I have asked the Axon rep to do that, but they're out. He emailed right when we came in, they're out in Arizona, so they have to get that up and running. So I don't know how much significant that cost is going to be because it's just an overall package.
Great, thank you. So this kind of, so this would meet the criteria for, like you said, some of the training requirements in the bill. Okay, so when you installed the vehicle cameras, did we bring on extra state's attorneys to view that?
I'll be honest. I'm trying to think. I know I said over 20 years. I've been on about 25, and I think when I started, we had cameras. So the vehicle cameras were way ahead of the curve, obviously, on that. It predates me, so I don't know, more than 2 decades ago, how staffing was affected by that. I know that it's taken us a lot of staff to manage that and to have storage, and especially when it was videotaped, and then we have to have supervisors review it. It's always created, manpower for us.
Okay, thank you so much. So, and then you said you're going to have because I was curious if there was cloud-based storage available as well, and that this evidence.com is going to be storing that. So that might save us a little bit of money with the cloud-based storage. How long do we have to keep the video? Do you know?
That all varies. Traditionally speaking, under the records disposal, we can do 90 days if it has no evidentiary value, no case value, no anything of that nature. But a homicide investigation, we have to keep that for life.
Okay.
So it all just really depends on the duration of the case, any court orders, any.
And do you need any special equipment to download that to their cloud, or?
We shouldn't, no.
We shouldn't, okay. And then, do you see any benefits to having body cameras?
Any benefits?
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think it's going to catch our deputies doing things right.
Okay, great. And do you know, and maybe this isn't a question for you, but do the cameras assist with prosecutions of criminal cases?
That would be the state's attorney.
That would be for the state's attorney. But I'm just wondering if that would be, two of the cameras helps with that.
I would say one thing that's going to really be disruptive about that is there's part of that House bill said that the police aren't supposed to review the video before writing a report. So it forces us not to have a tool that we would to make sure our reports are consistent with the video. So it actually seems to be a mechanism built in to create a conflict in the reporting of police officers. So yes, it'll make that much more difficult. More litigation will spur from that, because now if there's any variance from the video we're not allowed to look at in the actual report, now you're looking at a potential loss of the case. So yes, it'll be a big problem.
And then do you, is your office planning like a public, no, no, like a public outreach campaign to let the citizens know that you now will be wearing body cams, and how that might impact, interactions with people that, are you going to do like a public, like I said?
Oh, sure. We'll do press releases and we put it on our social media. We're very active in that realm.
Okay, great. I think those are
Great.
all my questions. for now.
Thank you, Member Chaplet. I see Member Schwarze's had his hand up for a while. Member Schwarze, proceed.
Sorry, we can't hear Member Schwarze's question.
Thank you, sorry. A couple questions for me. First, I was a little confused on the quote talking about tasers as well. So please explain, there's tasers involved in this quote as well as body cameras.
Correct. Right now we have 43 Taser 7s, which is Axon Taser's most current electronic device.
Okay,
So basically what we wanted to do was marry up the rest of the body cameras with Taser so that everybody who had a body cam would have that Taser 7. Because like I said, if you were to hop out of the car and forget to turn on your body cam, but the sheriff hopped out and he turned on his Taser, it would actually activate your body cam. And one part that I forgot to mention is that Taser is also including a Axon, I apologize, a piece that can be put onto deputies' holsters so that if they unholster their firearm, it will actually register and kick on that body cam as well. So it's a really good precautionary thing for the deputies who are out on the street.
okay. And what is the breakdown, the tasers versus the body cams in this $2.5 million? Do you know?
The body cameras themselves are listed at $699. And then it's just the least cost of the tasers. I don't have an exact dollar amount for you, but right now we have 43 Taser 7s and it costs us about $30,000 a year.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to the body cams, you know, I've been a fan. Not only does it protect the public, but even just as important, it protects our police officers. Do you see any possible savings with, say, frivolous lawsuits with having the body cams? I mean,
in my past as a road supervisor, when I was on the road, and the dash cams actually debunked more false claims than they supported. So I do see that happening. It does give us a chance to show our side unedited. Instead of taking a 3-5 second clip out of a 15-minute experience, we have the whole experience. I do think that it can help with that. Like I said, I think we're going to catch far more of our people doing something right than on the opposite.
thank you very much. That's all I have.
I also have had Member Garcia has been waiting, and then we'll go online. Thanks, Chairman Renahan. Quick question, since I'm really new on the board here, I'm just kind of questioning the funds that, I'm just wondering why nothing was, I mean, I've talked to municipalities in the area and they already have the body cameras. They've already been using some of them. And I'm wondering why no funds were set aside for the cameras for the last few years, knowing that this was probably, or it should have been something that was coming down the road, because they're so worthwhile in so many high profile cases that have happened. So if I can just get a little history on what's happened before I joined the board, that would be great.
Yeah, we looked into tasers a few years ago. There was a grant, but it was a matching grant, and it was denied by the county board. So we were unable to do it. We didn't set aside any money because until this House bill was passed, we had no idea this was coming. So we have had no way to prepare for this. Again, I came here months ago to warn everybody that this was going to happen, but I was told I was off topic. The next meeting, this was indefinitely tabled. I was given no opportunity, just like this House bill was created, to have any input on anything before it hit us in the face.
Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you both for being here. Really appreciate all the information and you taking your time to answer all the questions. My main question is, are we married to this Axon Taser 7 company? Or can we bid this out? I did a little research on professional grade body cams with Wi-Fi, night vision, waterproof, and Ztronics has one for $179. Z Bodycam X7 has one for $209. Micro DV has one for $200, and Blue Line has one with infrared night vision for about $350. And you're saying these body cams cost $699. So I'm wondering if we could bid this out. I also saw a storage company, storage software for these body cams, video clip storage at activitysuite.com from $99 per month for an unlimited number of users. So if we average the cost of all the body cams that I mentioned, the average cost is about $235 times 115 deputies. That's $27,000. Then the software would be a little over $1,000. And even if we add in your sergeant's salary to oversee the program, it's at $115,000. It's still about $143,000, which is much less than the $2.5 million. So again, my overall question is, are we married to Axon Taser 7? And if so, why? Or can we bid this out? Thank you.
I wouldn't necessarily say that we're married to Axon Taser 7. My experience with many of these products is you get what you pay for. Axon Taser 7 is proven in the market. They're proven in the industry. Their platform is phenomenal. all of their stuff works together. The more and more different products that we go out, the more and more different platforms that we go out, the more and more different things that touch our IT, touch Bob Berlin's IT, touch Jeff York's IT, you're increasing your costs exponentially, and not having any knowledge or say in any of their products or their reliability, I couldn't give any better opinion on it than that. This WatchGuard is the second best option that we looked at, but even them costing them out, they were over $2 million for the 5 years as well. And that doesn't even give us the option of the TASER device and adding on to the existing software and experience we already have.
So just for the body cams, this Axon TASER 7 for 115 body cams would be $80,000. But if we went with the less expensive, I'm just saying there are less expensive options, it's under $30,000.
I don't know anything about those other products. We actually need 180 body cams. I don't know anything about those.
Oh, I'm sorry. The presentation that the sheriff made 2 weeks ago said 115 body cams.
No, I believe it was 180. It's 115 for our law enforcement people. If you go a little bit further, all of our other people are SWAP people, our transport people, and then the spare one. So it was the extra.
So 180, not 115. Okay. Yeah, the presentation said 115, so that was the number I was going with. And then a question came up while you were answering other questions. You said you have 43 tasers, and you mentioned a number $30,000. So that's $697 per taser per year. I mean, did we buy the tasers outright, or are we renting them, or where does that $30,000 a year come from?
As I mentioned earlier, TASER has a platform now where you can only lease their devices for 5 years. That's how they feel their devices to be usable. One of the benefits is if we use training cartridges, they give us training cartridges. If we use live cartridges, they give us live cartridges. Those used to be an exponential cost for our old devices, those between $20 and $30 per cartridge. So we've used hundreds in training, and they just keep replacing them for us. So, and an end result has probably saved us a lot of money. And when things break, it's leased, they just replace it.
Okay, so the 30,000 is in cartridges. All right, thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. I would recommend that we look into, this whole conversation is about dollars and cents and where's the money coming from. I would recommend we look into less expensive body cams and software. That would be my recommendation. I mean, that's a huge difference. Just in the body cam hardware, 80,000 to under 30,000, it's worth looking into to maybe bid out. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Desart. I have Member Selmon and then Member Eckhoff.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just have a couple quick questions. For the tasers that are included in this quote, is that so that it can meet a requirement of the law, or is that because of the benefits you talked about the unholstering and it triggering the cameras? Like, is that just sort of how the system works, so it makes sense to have both being purchased?
It's just a part of the system, and since we already have 43 of those TASER devices that would marry up to the cameras, it was just making sure that it was a uniform application of their platform.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you had mentioned earlier that you were going to try to pursue a $126,000 grant, which I think everyone supports very much. And when Sheriff Mendrick presented with us on the special call, he had said you guys were looking for some other grants. Has there been anything that's besides that state grant that you guys are excited about, or are you kind of still just looking and we'll see what we get?
As far as grants go, no, the federal grants have really kind of dried up. Part of my group, we monitor those daily, looking for those. One of my staff members excitedly sent the email that about the cameras reopened. So that kind of put us down this road. One thing I would like to point out too, not in addition to that grant, is time is a factor as well. With TASER Axon, we're talking 4 to 6 weeks minimum for delivery, another 2 weeks to get somebody here to help set that up, and then probably a good 3 to 4 months for full implementation, which runs us right up to that January 1st deadline.
Okay, and then my last question was, and this might more be a question for the sheriff. When you had come to present your budget, I think it was 2018, but I might have my years confused. You'd really prioritized doing some extra mental health work, and your concern was that it was coming down the pike, so we wanted to pay for it early and sort of get ahead of it. I was just curious if any of those efforts sort of ended up cashing in. Were they included in this bill and we were already doing it, or were they just sort of good programs with the bill changed? And that's not your fault, of course. I mean, no, Springfield does what it wants.
Great question. Where we ended up being ahead of everything in the game was our correctional facility. We do a very large continuum of care. It starts with detoxing and drug recovery, mental health, whole cadre of religious services, educational services, vocational services, reentry, MAT. So by delving into all of this continuum of care, reformative process within our correctional facility, we exceed most of the things that would have hit that environment. So we're dealing with kind of more of a patrol issue than a bigger issue. We would have had to have both of those hemispheres done if we weren't ahead of the game with corrections.
All right, thank you. I think that's one point I really wanted to make sure that everyone remembered, because it was something during your presentation, because I remembered you being so adamant about wanting to get ahead of this. So I want to thank you for, just thinking ahead and trying to save us money where you could. And then sort of just Chairwoman Renahan, my general comments, I think the special call presentation reminded me a lot of our presentation in early spring last year when we were dealing with COVID and we got the worst case scenario numbers, and then we were able to sort of get them to a much better case by the time we passed the budget. I certainly hope with this board's effort, with the sheriff's office effort, and with effort from all the other partner organizations, I hope that we're gonna be able to either get the costs down, get some support for Springfield to help us pay for some of these very large unfunded burdens. And so I look forward to working with all of you to try to find a solution that doesn't result in having millions of dollars due at the end of the year. Thanks very much, Sheriff.
Thank you. Then I'm going to call Member Eckhoff, and then I think we need to round out questions in the interest of time.
Sheriff, I just had a question. I remember a couple of years ago when that grant proposal came up through Sheriff Zaruba. I think the grant was only for $50,000, wasn't it, for 2 years?
Yeah, and it didn't have any of the perpetual costs included either.
Right.
It was a matching grant and didn't have any of the costs in perpetuity or staffing costs involved.
So number one, the $50,000, if I remember saying, was just going to be a drop in the bucket compared to all the costs.
Correct.
And then even after 2 years, the $50,000 was going to go away, and we'd be saddled with an entire program that wasn't required at that time. So that's why at least I was not in favor of it at that time, and I don't think the consensus of the county board was in favor of body cams at that time. In terms of funding them, as the sheriff and chief have said, body cams aren't inherently evil. They're going to probably show that our deputies and police officers and police departments throughout the county are doing things right. I think body cams, or the concept of body cams, are born out of communities that don't trust their police, that think they're going to catch the police doing something wrong. And that's indicative of the legislation that says the police can't look at the body cam footage until after they create their report. Why would you do that unless you're trying to trip them up and have a not guilty in court because the report doesn't match up with a body cam? Why would you do that? It's because the people who pass the legislation don't trust the police. But in DuPage County, I think we do trust the police. I think we love the police. I think we respect the police and we support the police. And what proof of that is 2 years ago when the Bloomingdale police officer was responding to a 911 call, crashed his car and died. His funeral procession was taken throughout the county. And we had teachers, we had students, we had parents coming out to show respect for him. Not to show disrespect for him, but to show respect, because we respect police in DuPage County. And Sheriff, if I could ask you, how many forcible or excessive force complaints have your department had last year?
Since I've been elected, I'm proud to say that we have not had one citizen complaint against one deputy for any form of use of force.
So that's like 2.5 years then.
Yeah.
So
I'm very proud to say that.
and that's after going through all of the little riots that we had.
Correct.
I shouldn't say little riots, but riots in Oak Brook and Naperville where things were about to get out of control. So body cams aren't necessarily bad, but I don't think they're intended to help the police through the legislation that we've got in Springfield. The people who passed it don't want to help the police. They want to trip up the police.
Well, and when a body cam can be bad is if we buy cheaper technology that may be faulty, because it's going to be a big deal when one of these doesn't work. It's going to be a big lawsuit, especially if it's one of those flashpoint moments that they say we should have captured. So be careful looking for second-rate companies that are really cheap. They're really cheap for a reason. There's a competitive process out there. These are proven technologies that we have that we know work with our environment. But again, I beseech you, please let the policemen make the police decisions in the police environment. If you guys make those decisions, then the fault is yours when something bad happens.
And if the body cam isn't turned on, isn't that possibly a class 4 felony against the officer?
You got it. So please be aware, we are vetting what we are. I'm not saying don't armchair quarterback. It's your job to make sure the budget is proper. But don't put us with the tool that doesn't do the job you guys are requiring us to do.
Well, like I said, I don't think this legislation is designed to help the police. I think it'll help our police because they do a good job. But it's just ridiculous how a class 4 felony can be brought against an officer because the body cam doesn't flip on.
And think about that. Marry that to not being able to review your videotape before you write your report.
So it's you know, let's have gotcha moments against the police. That's all.
Correct.
It is. It's really ridiculous.
All right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for their comments. Thank you, Sheriff Mendrick.
Thank you.
and,
Appreciate it.
Deputy Sheriff Aldo. I appreciate your being here and answering a lot of questions. I mean, I certainly feel that there might still be some more questions. I would like to see the tasers split out from the training, split out from the body cams so we can get down to brass tacks and see really what is our obligation versus maybe what is Cadillac level. And I'm not saying that DuPage County isn't worth Cadillac level. I just think that's something that we need to consider. There's so much tension in terms of how many people we need to add and what really needs to be done. I would like to see a show of hands of members that think we are ready to move this on to the next level to county board. Okay, I'm going to call Nick Kopmeyer up for explanation.
If you move it forward, it would come to the next JPS. If this is the look and the contract that is requested by everybody, it would require a simple majority at JPS, and it would require a super majority to pass finance and board, because this is a special appropriation through the DuPage County reserves. It was not budgeted because obviously the board didn't know about this crime bill when they passed the budget. So it would require a super majority of the board to approve.
Thank you. So I guess the question is, did you have a question for Nick? Member Zay.
I did. There'd been some discussion from some members that this new federal funding we're receiving in America First could be used for some of this. I don't think it's possible. Do you guys have an opinion right now? I know it's new, but.
I know Cheryl is working with the lobbyists and legislators to scrub that, but everything indicates right now, given the requirements of it, that new money that is coming would most likely not qualify for funding for this.
The sheriff is saying that we have to move this along in order to meet the deadlines that are set forth in the statute. It's not driven by us, it's driven by Springfield. So if we have to meet the deadlines and comply with the law, which meet January 1, 2022, we got to pass it out of here and send it to finance.
Member Schwarze, I saw your hand up.
Nick, what is our percentage of reserves per our annual budget?
I'm going to defer to our CFO for that. 38% right now.
And is typically anywhere between 25 and 50%? Is that what?
Our reserves are in a very good place right now.
And if we use this money out of the reserves, how much would that lower that percentage of 38%?
Well, keep in mind our reserves in the general fund are actually going to go up because of the money that we're able to transfer from CRF to the general fund for CARES dollars that were actually for public safety costs.
Okay.
So if we didn't spend anything, we'd be looking at an increase of another $20 million, which would probably put us right around the 50% mark.
Thank you very much.
So I think there was a couple funding questions that came up, and what I said at our last meeting was the capital costs are probably the easier part to fund. It's the ongoing operating costs. When you talk about additional sergeants, state's attorneys, public defenders, that are much more difficult to fund, especially at the levels of staff and headcount that were requested. So again, my concern isn't as much funding the equipment as it is the ongoing personnel costs, which are most challenging.
Thank you very much.
Member Jacqueline?
It's just really quick. So I wrote down that you guys have a 4 to 6 week delivery for the body cameras. And then how much training time did you say that you needed for those? I can't remember. Did you say 6 months training, or what was the training?
4 to 6 weeks is on the short end for them to deliver the body cameras.
Okay.
Then it's another up to 2 weeks, maybe longer for Axon Taser to have a rep come out to actually help us set everything up, get all of the equipment logged in. To make a long story short, everything has to be logged into evidence.com. Every piece of equipment then has to be assigned to the individual deputies. We have to have trainers trained here to train the deputies, to train that supervisor to run the program. We have to get it all implemented on the short end. And if we did it really, really fast, I would say if the board would approve it today and we ordered it today, we might have it all set up by maybe mid-September. So everything that we move out is moving it out a little bit further. If we move out too far, we're going to lose that opportunity for that camera grant, that reimbursement as well, because it has to be paid for to get that reimbursement. And the program actually has to be up and running by the end of June, I think was the cutoff date for that. So that $126,000 or whatever dollar amount for the cameras, it's only the cameras that you can get reimbursed for. That window would close if this gets pushed out too far as well. So that's an opportunity to try to recoup $126,000. And I'm trying to recoup some of the money for the WatchGuard cameras that were purchased last year too, because that can be included as well. So long story short on that grant, we're trying to recoup about $200,000. But if this gets pushed out too far, I'm going to lose the opportunity for 126 of it for the actual cameras.
Right. So I was just trying to figure what our timeline is. If we could, if we did it by the end of April, that would give you time.
That would give us the time to purchase. I'm not sure that the end of April would give us the time to implement the program because that's part of the state requirement. That's the Illinois State Training and Standards Board. That's part of their requirement is the implementation. And I can do a little bit more digging on that and see if they would extend that based on the size of our organization. But that's unknown
Okay.
right now.
And then, all right. Okay, great. Thanks so much. I just want to get a kind of idea.
Vice Chair Krajewski?
Thank you. Is there any possibility we can get some help from Springfield on this, since this was a Springfield creation? Are we, is there a benefit for us to look to Springfield and our DuPage delegation doing something to get kind of recoup some of these funds, since this is where it came from?
I don't have an answer to that. There's a lot of funds that are coming that we don't know. This is just one part.
You know, I don't know if Cheryl is online, but I don't know if she can mention if there's any bills that are pending out there that might include funding for that. Cheryl, are you online?
Yes, we have not seen any trailer bills yet to alter the legislation at all, and I'm not aware of any funding other than what the sheriff just mentioned. I think that's through the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, and it's just a very small reimbursement for a small portion of the body camera.
Member Krajewski?
Thank you. Just two real quick things. One, I think we need to probably have a bigger discussion with regards to how we're funding all of these costs, because are we going to continue to have these things brought forward and then just go into reserves to pay for them? Or, I think we should have a broader discussion. And the second thing, I heard a lot about training, that we have to have a lot of training with that. Is that going to require, well, we're putting these people through training, callbacks for overtime, et cetera? Or is there enough time in their day to do the training? Or are we going to skip something they're currently doing to train them and then have to hire people to fill those positions?
Are you speaking?
Yes, you mentioned about all the training we got to have in place. So when you're doing the training, can they just do that on their normal time, or are you going to have training and therefore fill up those voids with people when they're doing the training?
Intent is for Axon Taser to send out their trainer, and then what they'll do is what's called a train the trainer. So we'll probably get anywhere from 8 to 12 people trained, and they'll usually be our supervisors and our field training officers, and then they can conduct the training in their in-service roll calls. So it wouldn't be, this particular aspect would not be massive amounts of mandated training and overtime. Some of the other parts of this bill, absolutely, but this particular aspect, no.
And was that in your presentation, the overtime required because of all the training for the mandates?
That's going to be the mandates, and the overtime will also be in that mental health and wellness mandate as well. So the training mandates and that mental health and wellness screening.
But that was factored into your costs, overall costs over the 5 years?
Right, we tried to estimate that, yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, one last comment, Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. To the Sheriff's Department. The 180 cameras, is that one per deputy, one per?
So the 115 is our law enforcement deputies. So
Okay.
that's basically from the sheriff, the command staff, down to everybody who works in law enforcement, in our law enforcement bureau. Then we have SWAP, whose deputies are out at SWAP, supervising the sentenced offenders to SWAP. We have deputies who are in transport that are transporting people to different places throughout the state,
Okay.
really.
Okay.
Because they could be in a law enforcement function. We wanted to give them one to protect them and the officers as well. And then we had to keep a small amount in reserves for either damage or breaking, or if we have any of these major events, like I said, Medina, if we do the election commission detail, when we're out here doing that kind of stuff, we want to make sure those people are all wearing them as well.
Understood. So then my next question would be, for deputy coming off shift, is there sharing allowed with these? I mean, does each officer absolutely need one, or?
The best thing to do is, because we have take-home vehicles, our deputies take all their stuff home with them.
Okay, thank you for answering that. That's
Madam Chair,
I think we need to wrap up at this
my
point.
hand's been up.
Start very quickly.
Madam Chair, my hand's been up.
Very quickly, please.
All right, so this morning's discussion is only about the body cam piece, not the whole $63 million package that you presented a couple of weeks ago. When you asked, Madam Chair, if we were ready to move forward to county board, I did not raise my hand because I think that we need to have further discussion on the body cam piece, in that we need to get some bids. I would love to drive a Maserati, but I drive a Ford. I really believe that we need to take a look at the money and get more bids. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Once again, I'm going to ask for a show of hands of who would like to bring this forward to JPS for vote next meeting. I'm counting one in the room, and I do not see any online. All right, thank you, committee. Thank you, Sheriff. At this point, I'd like to move on to old business. Do we have any old business? Do we have any new business? Seeing none, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.